Chief Migration Officer and staff locked out. Process slow in introducing ICAC and Whistleblower legislation. And Barramundis and SP Hunters take part in beach cricket.
This is National EMTV News with Meriba Tulo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is Monday's news. The Immigration and Citizenship Authority has seen a change in the position of the country's Chief Migration Officer. ICA's General Manager Finance, Robert Kennedy, has assumed the position of CMO. This came as a surprise to Solomon Kantha and staff who were locked out of their office this morning.
This was the scene at the Immigration and Citizenship Authority office inside the Central Government building between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. today. A group of ICAC officers, including the Chief Migration Officer, Solomon Kantha, all locked out of the office. Kantha, who described the situation as an unlawful process, says he was not formally advised of any changes to the positions.
I did not have access to the office. I was a bit surprised, and I later found out that there was an acting Chief Migration Officer who had advised the building management to deactivate the access to my office. Now this is very disappointing. Disappointing to me in the sense that I was not formally served a notice that I was either suspended or my appointment was revoked. This is clearly an abuse of authority and abuse of process, and I'm disappointed that the NEC has gone ahead to make a decision that is in breach of the public service process in terms of making an acting appointment.
The Office of the Prime Minister has been contacted for an official comment on this. However, Kantha says he is disappointed that he was not formally served a notice on the change.
I've sought legal advice. I have a very strong case because the whole process is illegal and unlawful. I'm in the middle of my term. There has been no basis of the revocation of my appointment based on performance or based on any serious issue or allegation. So I believe that this process is unlawful.
The Immigration Department is a vital arm of the national government that deals with national security amongst other issues. One of its core tasking was to cater for the refugees and asylum seekers who had come to Papua New Guinea since 2012. Thekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
The much-anticipated Independent Commission Against Corruption Bill and related whistleblower legislation should be introduced on the floor of Parliament early next year. According to Deputy Prime Minister and Attorney General David Stephen, whilst the intention of government has been to fast-track the tabling of these important bills, the efforts of bureaucracy, especially in regards to the whistleblower legislation, has been disappointing, with the NEC still awaiting legal clearance from respective officers responsible, which is a concern.
In line with the Marape Stephen government's efforts to combat corruption, the Independent Commission Against Corruption Bill is set to be tabled in Parliament when Parliament resumes in February next year. Speaking to National EMTV News, Deputy Prime Minister and Attorney General David Stephen confirmed this, adding that proper process was now being followed in having this important bill distributed to all MPs before its tabling on the floor of Parliament. The ICAC bill, one that has taken several years to table.
So ICAC is already ready. The 1 month mandatory notice period has been given in the Gazette, so that's complied with. Now that we've got the rules in Parliament for circulation, that should be complied with in the next few days. I mean, in the subsequent months now before the next Parliament. And then ICAC, it is our intention that ICAC will be introduced in the February sitting. So that's something that we are working with the clerk to improve on.
The related whistleblowers legislation is also expected to be tabled together with the ICAC bill. However, despite the legislation already approved in principle by the National Executive Council, the Attorney General has raised concerns as to the commitment of bureaucracy in drafting this legislation, with the Attorney General unhappy with perceived efforts to delay work on this legislation.
With the whistleblowers legislation, the Cabinet has already endorsed it. It's the delay is with the drafting by the First Legislative Council. FLC's been sitting on it. I say on the record, he's been sitting on it. I don't know why, but he's been sitting on it. And I say this because I myself have found it very difficult to even bring in the whistleblowers legislation. Our leaders are mindful. They want to pass it, but they're also saying, well, if you are going to use the whistleblowers protection to protect yourself and go and make false allegations, you must be punished. So that was a fair input onto the draft that we received. And just that small amendment to be inserted, it's taken a few months now. And
according to the Attorney General, there needs to be urgency in ensuring that these legislations are completed, with the bureaucracy urged to ensure that they are in tune with government efforts.
I'm appealing as a New Year and Christmas appeal to the FLC and Chief Secretary as well, to move his people, to move these important bills for people to realize government wants to do something. But when you have agencies of the state pulling and dragging their legs, then I don't know what to do.
Internal Revenue Commission Acting Commissioner General Sam Coim has announced various tax reforms to better suit the small to medium entrepreneurs in the country. He was speaking to SME owners and business houses today during the inaugural Startup PNG Convention. He said IRC is working on simplifying the outdated tax laws so that people can better understand the tax laws.
The inaugural Startup PNG Convention continued on day 2 with various small to medium-term entrepreneurs setting up stalls to market their products. Speakers from various organizations also spoke of the challenges in their businesses and shared their stories. IRC Acting Commissioner General Sam Coim spoke of the various tax reforms the IRC is undertaking to help SMEs.
As part of the reforms, we're trying to Treasury is spearheading the simplification of the tax laws that we have, simplify the tax laws, which will also lead towards simplifying some of the forms and the processes. So this outdated 1959 law, we will reduce him, and then as part of that, the introduction of the SME tax regime.
The Commissioner General also highlighted IRC's plan to have an automated system to ease the way people do businesses. He said this is also to help IRC profile big taxpayers in the country.
The thinking is to procure a new tax administration system, and by helping Umilong connect one-time internet that will interface with the internet, so it will help us to introduce some e-portals or portal where online oliat bagona filing tax return, oliat bagona making payment online.
According to Coim, there are companies operating illegally in the country to avoid paying tax. He said the reform is to stop people from doing the wrong thing and start paying tax.
So that's a challenge that we have, but we are hoping that as soon as we get all these things improved, we will get a fair share of taxes. We will also ask the public to participate with us on GST. If a company or business is charging you GST, but you really wonder whether they are actually remitting it to IRC, we would like to get those information and we would start going after those people.
According to the Acting Commissioner General, many SME owners lack knowledge and understanding on tax paperwork. He said the IRC is looking at setting up taxpayer service centers for SMEs to get help. He also highlighted the government's plan to charge minimum tax for SMEs.
And then we are also looking at simplifying the forms. Those businesses below the 250,000 threshold will be voluntarily submitting GST returns if you want to voluntarily do that. There's no compulsory requirement for you to do that.
The Startup PNG Convention, which started yesterday, will continue into day 3 tomorrow and ends on Wednesday. Rayon Lakingu National, MTV News.
Air Niugini has responded to claims of unfair treatment by its ground staff. The National Airline Employee Association last week gathered outside the New Guinea headquarters to air out their frustration over housing allowances and other issues, with threats to go on strike if their demands were not met by their employer. In response, New Guinea says the Department of Labour and Industrial Relations has intervened as the matter is now a dispute and that any strike action is subject to a process that must be satisfied under the Act. Any industrial action outside of this process will be deemed illegal. New Guinea assured its customers that the company has planned extensively for this Christmas period and its operations over the holidays will remain as normal. However, members of the union have strongly made their stance known and are giving their employer a week to address their grievances. Failure to do so, they say, will result in a secret ballot to decide their next course of action. Police in Western Highlands Province recently launched their Christmas New Year operation. Provincial Police Commander Chief Inspector Jacob Kamyak told MTV News that police will ensure that families celebrate an alcohol abuse-free and trouble-free festive season. This means that police will ensure that they achieve their goal this season and they will be tough in enforcing the law, doing traffic road checks and more.
Police have begun conducting footbeat patrol, motorized patrols, traffic roadblocks and checking all beer outlets to ensure that they have license to operate. They have reported an increase in the number of alcohol-related deaths in the province recently, from murder cases to traffic accidents. PPC Chief Inspector Jacob Kamyak says people are consuming alcohol without care, so for this festive operation, police will be tough on those who are disorderly.
Consuming alcohol during Christmas, New Year causes a lot of problems in the family and within the tribes and the communities, and it sometimes gets out of hand and people die.
The public have also been warned to take precautions during this festive season. PPC Kamyak says criminals are impersonating police and defense personnel and are robbing supermarkets. He said there have been incidents of criminals wearing police and defense uniforms, carrying high-powered weapons and committing robbery.
I want the public to know that this is very wrong. At the same time, you are painting a bad image on the police and the army, and at the same time, you are victimizing innocent people. We want a society that is law-abiding. We want the people who are responsible.
PPC Kamyak is warning the travelling public to Mount Hagen City for shopping, work or other activities to take extra precaution and return home early. Drivers and crew members of private or public motor vehicles are also warned not to drink and drive. There will be traffic road checks to ensure they prevent traffic accidents or alcohol-related deaths.
It's around the corner to celebrate Christmas and New Year. Enjoy the festive period peacefully. If you are going to church, go to church. If you have a problem and you're trying to reconcile, to look forward to next better life next year, go ahead. That's the only way where we can live peacefully in our community and within the province.
Vasanata Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
This is National EMTV News. Among stories after the break, a landowner group thriving in business in East New Britain province. That story and more when we come back. Welcome back to the news. The Tobar Business Investment in East New Britain province is not so popular, but it is a landowner business group that is growing. The group, comprising of some 200 landowners who started by contributing about 500 kina each to buy a plantation. Today, they own 3 plantations with a net assets worth over 7 million kina.
Tobar Business Investment started from a humble beginning with just 200 members from the Bitapaka area of East New Britain province. Then each member contributed 500 kina to secure a loan to purchase a piece of land.
And in that land that we will be giving back to land Lemiplalo Palace, ad hocly give him Tasul no. It's a subdivision. And in that subdivision, they will also sign with us that subdivision subdivision is done, so that I may also provide him for the family economically too.
In 2006, after successfully obtaining the loan and purchasing the land, the business group developed it by planting balsa. But that's not the end of their business ventures. In 2012, the group yet again purchased another plantation.
We started off at Kilalu, where we used the money from balsa to purchase this plantation. It's 250 hectares of land.
Today the business has grown and has assets worth over 7 million kina. The business group is focusing on the agriculture sector, particularly oil palm, balsa, cocoa and coconut. But it says they also have other plans.
We've also ventured into real estate. We've part of this plantation, Manto plantation, we've subdivided 50 hectares and we've given it away or sell it away to interested buyers.
We will also be doing some ground too, where we play making blong school, blong housing, blong police post, and a little bit of commercial area also.
The Tobar business investment gives a tiny glimpse of a business concept that is created by the people and owned by the people. It's a concept that takes a lot of financial risks, the members of the group say, but so far the benefits have outweighed the risks involved. Edwin Fidelis, National EMTV News, Kokopo.
A small community in the Kairukuhiri district received a generous donation of 20-litre jerry cans and 144-gallon plastic drum recently from the Wildlife Seventh-day Adventist Church. Every year when the dry season hits, water becomes scarce, resulting in very long walks to fetch water. The jerry cans will help them store water. However, the community will need to figure out a way to have a more sustainable storage to benefit the whole community in the years ahead.
But time mi play stop lo walk lo go come na mi play walk long kisim lo tu wanda mol na mi play walk lo lukim. Big plan need lo le stop lo wara.
After a 3-day retreat, the Seventh-day Adventist Wildlife Church gave one 44-gallon plastic drum and over 20-liter jerry cans to the Rubulogo community. Good Samaritan leader of the SDA Wildlife Church, Amos Evines, said they saw the great need for water while on the retreat.
Same old community because plenty people only drinking all this water no good plenty all beginning only sick, plenty people all die finish. Amos so nami pla kam lo bring him service kam lo community lo help him all.
Rubulogo village is located in the Kairukuhiri district and lies several kilometers from the Brown River. With a population of over 250 people, during the dry season, water becomes a real need. The villagers sometimes have to walk 2 to 3 kilometers just to fetch drinking water.
Blow was na cooking kaike na all this layer. Mi pla hard lo providing because mi pla no gatim big pla one me. Osem na mi play only container where mi play na play help him underneath long church group where mi play provide him only container where all by usim logana mi play kisim kam.
Mr. Tikana says they need proper storage for water and their leaders are not responding to their pleas.
Line where only go past lo mipla inside lo some leaders only no sabe look sabe lo one community only got all sidan alright all sidan karangi only sabe look. That's all time where good time blowers have come and also have come na burkum screw lo miplana also have like kisi number lo mipla. That's all. You know got one look sabe.
The Seventh-day Adventist Wildlife Church hopes they can do more for the people, but for now they know that the jerry cans will be put to good use. Lillian Sopera Kenea, National EMTV News.
A water supply project is nearing completion at Nagum Adventist High School in the Yanguru Salse district. Delivered in partnership with the District Development Authority, the contractor anticipates having it completed within the next 2 weeks. The project is expected to benefit over 200 students and staff.
Nagam Adventist High School, though located near a flowing river, lacks clean water supply for its students and teachers. For daily use, teachers and students use water collected from rain and stored in tanks. But in order for the school to operate smoothly without experiencing water shortage during the dry season, the Yanguru Sausia DDA has commenced work on installing a water pump to supply the school with clean water. The water project carried out at Nagam falls under the DDA's plan to improve the delivery of education in the district. At Nagam, 2 different water systems are being built to ensure there is enough clean water for all. One that will use solar and the other the rain harvesting system. With the introduction of the 2 water systems, it is anticipated that the school will not face water shortage during the dry season. Thaklagunga, National EMTV News.
The Yanguru Sausia District Development Authority is looking at establishing projects on state land at Urimo Station in the Sauso LLG. Local MP Richard Maro made the announcement while officiating at the opening of new classrooms and teachers' houses at Urimo Primary.
Urimo is an all-government station in the Sauso LLG. It used to be the biggest cattle ranch in Papua New Guinea in the colonial era and in the early years after independence. Over the years, there has been a decline in government presence in terms of basic services, including road networks, health and electricity supply.
People are talking only people must project no state land. Because suppose you be like some power line come, you be like some gold come, one people project you must have no Urimo area. So people you know you Urimo people now you be talking yet no finding way. That's the only way, by making a terminal road, by making a power come, school by is even more. Now this is a place by the big light inside Lokunai.
Urimo Primary was established in 1976 and only relocated to its current location in 2004. Because Urimo is situated on the Sepik Plains, where most of the area is grassland, there are limited opportunities for people to generate income. Thus, building permanent classrooms and staff houses seemed almost impossible.
Now, Lord Tamblo, as school start 21 years. School start 21 years when I got look away. Block up man or me about long younger Sausia. No got. 21 years I'm start nothing no look away. People are going to 2-in-1 or LG Lokubale working. I'm personal, I'm on the ground. I'm stopped. If I run by Lucas, 2-in-1 start on the ground. You know, a floor house, but Tamblo ground house.
Under the Yanguru Sausia's DDA's goals to improve education for its children, the DDA has built 6 new classrooms and 2 staff houses. The idea is to invest in quality education for children in the district.
Make use of the facilities where you got today. Come to school all time, apply you the trend of the people of you come up. People of man and very future, and make you more proud.
And there has been a commitment made by the district to build 4 additional houses for the teachers. Thaklagunga, National EMTV News.
Trying to access services in Leh is a burden for people in Pile in Huon Gulf due to bad road conditions. Locals walk for about 10 kilometers every day to get to the main bus stop to catch a ride into the city. Drivers avoid using the road for the safety of their vehicles.
This is the condition of the road that leads from the main road into Pile. According to locals, it has been in this state for 20 years. Mothers who want to get to the Leh main market have to carry the garden produce all the way to the main road because vehicles avoid these bad road conditions. Students attending schools outside have to wake up and walk for 10 kilometers to get to a PMV. Some locals here are cocoa farmers. Others are contracted by New Guinea table beds, while others are engaged in the timber industry. The board chairman of the Early Childhood Development School in Pile, Walter Tumala, says people here contribute fairly to economic growth in the province and deserve recognition.
Got transport coming in and out, but they don't normally come in every time. They come in the mornings, they go out in the afternoon. Most of the time, people walk from here, going out to get into Lae to bring services. The problem is that we're just a few miles away from Lae. We still can't receive the normal goods and services that was actually given.
Last week, the LCD and Pile Elementary School hosted the graduation ceremony. The school's administration has plans for the elementary school to reach the primary level in the future. This is so students will not have to walk long distances to reach the nearest primary schools.
We are trying to talk with the education department, have a meeting with them and to see if we could have a primary school. Because we also have an elementary school here that is also graduating their grade elementary 2. And they will be moving on to grade 3. And this grade 3 are going to walk another 10 kilometers to go to the next primary school. So we're thinking of holding them in here. So we want to have a grade 1, grade 2 and grade 3 for now. And then we can look at the rest in the years coming.
Meanwhile, classrooms are also an issue. However, parents are willing to build bush material ones while waiting for assistance through the ward councillors. Charlene Airy, National EMTV News, Lae.
This is Monday's news. Among stories making headlines overseas when we come back, the deadly measles epidemic claiming more lives in Samoa. Stay tuned for the details. Welcome back to the news. Turning to news in the region now, and amid the grief in Samoa, anger is now growing about how the deadly epidemic has been handled. 70 people are now known to have died, and the death toll is expected to rise.
For 70 families around Samoa, the grief is raw. So many babies lost.
It's a recovery. I was shocked. It was very hard for me to accept what happened.
Anita lost her 8-month-old baby girl just a fortnight ago. She's 5 months pregnant. Despite having family support, she's finding it extremely difficult to cope. Victim Support Samoa's Lena Chang and her team are doing what they can to mend the psychological damage that families are left with, but it's not easy.
We want to offer moral support. We want to be there for them as families. We wanted them to know that there are other people who cared about them.
Victim Support, a non-government organisation, relies on donations.
But there has been a lot of love pouring into Victim Support to help and assist these ones. So I'm going to make sure that it will get to them.
While the family mourns, there's also anger at how the virus spread so quickly. 2-year-old Maretta was originally taken to hospital with a broken arm, but her parents have no doubt that's where she contracted the measles. In the waiting area, measles and non-measles cases were all seated together.
It was there that the outpatient, and there were lots of other children already affected by measles waiting to be seen by a doctor.
10-year-old Alieta Yosefo, who was buried in the weekend, also likely contracted the measles at hospital.
My son, he is a cancer patient, a cancer survivor. He survived cancer. I was called from the hospital the germs of measles. His immune was very low and his heart was very tiny.
Here in Samoa, hearts continue to break.
In New Zealand, footage posted on Twitter shows a group of people waiting to be rescued from White Island after an explosion. Helicopters were deployed to the island, taking many to hospitals. At least one person is in a critical condition.
The injured wrapped in blankets and stretchered into ambulances. A day trip to Whakaari, White Island turned to horror when the volcano erupted.
Police search and rescue is supporting the National Emergency Management Agency following an eruption at White Island off the coast of Whakatane. Police were alerted at 2:17 p.m. At this stage, and please do keep in mind this is an evolving situation, but at this stage we believe around 100 people were on or around the island at the time, and some of those at this stage are unaccounted for. A number of people are reportedly injured and are being transported to shore.
The number on the island has since been confirmed at fewer than 50. Still, a number are unaccounted for.
St John is in the middle of a significant incident here on White Island. So what I can tell you is that we have multiple casualties with significant injuries such as severe burns.
This woman's sister was a tour guide on the island. Her tour left just minutes before the eruption.
They're all back there now, and I think they were just helping the injured people get back on the boat. But she said she watched the whole thing and it was massive.
Whakatane locals have been gathering on the coastline, taking in the staggering sight.
It's shocking. I live just down the road and there was no shakes, no warning, nothing.
We're used to seeing steam from the islands and the odd eruption, but this is a first, having casualties.
New Zealand's most active volcano shooting ash thousands of feet into the sky.
Unfortunately, there's not a lot of shelter on the island, so no, people that are on the island are quite exposed, and we have significant concern for people that may have been on the island.
The webcam on the island shows the hours leading up to the eruption. You can see here a group of tourists in the crater just over an hour before. The explosion appearing to knock the camera over. GNS volcanologists say it was the biggest and most dramatic display in recent times.
There's been an eruption from the active vent area at the back of the crater lake, and there's some sort of blast has gone out across the main crater floor. So we know that the main crater floor has been significantly impacted. There was an ash column generated to about 12,000 feet high, and that's blown off to the east of the island, and the ash has rained into the sea, and that's stopped now.
Rescue boats took to the water. Tour helicopters replaced by rescue ones. A total of 7 of them taking off for the island. Many of the people in or around the island at the time are believed to have been from the cruise ship Ovation of the Seas, which is currently docked in Tauranga. At least 28 people from the ship had booked tours to the island today. GNS alerts have been ramping up in recent weeks. 2 weeks ago, it was upgraded to a level 2 alert, meaning volcanic unrest and the potential for eruption hazards. The latest alert just 6 days ago.
This is National EMTV News. We go for another break. When we come back, some sporting updates in Trukai Sports.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. It was an eventful Sunday at Ella Beach yesterday with the SP Brewery Beach Cricket Competition. It was a day for SP Brewery to have a community engagement by the sponsored teams, the men's national cricket team, the Barramundis and the SP Hunters, to play beach cricket and to mingle with fans afterwards.
SP Brewery yesterday hosted a beach cricket competition at Ella Beach in Port Moresby. The event was the first time beach cricket was played at Ella Beach. Since SP Brewery is a sponsor of the PNG national men's cricket team, the Barramundis, the brewery decided on hosting the event. As part of the event also, the SP Hunters were invited, along with the PNG Lewas, the women's national cricket team, and an all-star team made up of former PNG and Australian cricketers. Rugby league players and SP Hunters coach Matthew Church was also part of the All-Stars team. There was also a special appearance by Wendell Saylor.
Ball there by Pukana. New veteran in, Wendell Saylor.
Former Wallabies, Kangaroos and NRL player. The event was an avenue for the public to get a glimpse of the Barramundis and Hunters players, with the players handing out merchandise to the public after the one-day tournament.
I've been naming sponsor for the SP Hunters since the beginning, and we've sponsored Cricket PNG for a very long time as well. So it's also us showcasing the different support that we put into sports in Papua New Guinea. So that's really the objective of doing that, as well as I said, the community engagement piece is very important for us.
Lawrence Akanufa, acting marketing manager of SP Brewery, said Saylor was a good friend of Cricket PNG CEO Greg Campbell and seemed a good idea to bring in Saylor for the match.
He's got a good relationship with Cricket PNG with Greg Campbell there. So Greg sort of said, hey, why don't we bring Wendell Saylor up? He'll be fun. And the nation that we are, the rugby league loving nation, everyone knows Wendell Saylor up here. So it was kind of a thing to attract people to come down and see Wendell as well.
Saylor had been frequenting PNG for quite a while and was very entertaining to the crowd. He said it was great to be back in Papua New Guinea.
I know I've been here probably about, I reckon, 8 to 10 times. Come over with the Broncos, with Australia before, and St George and all that. But I love coming over here because PNG, they love not just their rugby league, they love their sport. Very natural athletes, as we've seen, and SP's been great too. So they brought me over for the World Cup, and they asked if I wanted to come over because when I came over a couple of years ago, I had a bit of a bat and bowl with the girls, and it was great, and then the boys too.
He is no stranger to cricket. Growing up in Queensland, he played cricket with some of former Australian cricketing greats.
I played cricket in North Queensland. I played cricket, so I come through with a few of the boys, Andrew Simons and Martin Love and Jimmy Marr and that. But for me, it's fun. It's a community engagement, and I know SP does a lot of good stuff for obviously the rugby league, but also the sports in general and community. So it's easy to come over and have a couple of days here.
Frilis Sukina National, EMTV Sports.
And it was relaxing for the SP PNG Hunters players to get some time off at Ella Beach from their usual pre-season training. Ase Boas, the former Hunters captain, has applauded new coach Matthew Church for the pre-season training so far.
Ase Boas was pretty good with the bat yesterday at the beach cricket outing hosted by SP Brewery. The Hunters players had a good time and as athletes had great skill for the sport. Ase of course learned cricket from watching it on television and using makeshift bats and the sidewalk as a cricket pitch during his youth. Even the SP PNG Hunters new coach Matthew Church had a few cricket skills as well.
When we were like kids, we were watching cricket, and after the cricket it's over, and then we try to go and sharpen some timbers and stuff and start playing on the street and stuff. So yeah, so that's what makes me more flexible and hitting the ball and more bowling and stuff. Yeah.
Ase was happy with the event but was even happier that it was a relaxing switch from the team's pre-season training at the Hunters, with Ase saying Matthew Church was doing well at pre-season.
It's good. It's our own type of coaching, so we really enjoy what he's starting already. So we'll just see what he's capable of, and we just follow what he's doing. And yeah, he's a good coach. He's really open and flexible with the boys and trying to mingle around with the boys. And we really enjoy his company and his coaching.
As an experienced player, Boas says the senior players in camp are working hard to ensure the new recruits at the Hunters are coping well with Church's training regime.
They encourage the old ones to continue to encourage the new ones to what it's like to be in a pre-season, and in order to make a final cut you need to push and doing extra yards to be there. So the camp is really good. The boys really fit in well and enjoying the training so far.
Frilis Sukina National, EMTV Sports.
Don't go anywhere, we'll be back with more of Trukai Sports right after these messages.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. To Rugby League and the SP PNG Hunters are in their third week of pre-season training in Port Moresby. A total of 41 players are in the squad and will go for a break next week and return on the 6th of January.
It has been a grueling 3 weeks for the SP Hunters pre-season squad as they've been hard at training at the Oil Search National Football Stadium. Coach Matthew Church says the style of training has not changed much, but the approach they've taken to this year's pre-season has some slight differences to past years.
Try and make everything game specifics. So the big thing for me is I've never scored a try after running 2 kilometres, so why would I make my players do that? So I do it a lot more shorter sprints, and then couple that up with conditioning games. So the boys are working really, really hard, and we're doing some skill in between that while they're under fatigue. So it's about setting good habits.
Communicating with the players was an issue for Church in their first week of training, but he says over the past few weeks they've gotten to understand each other and are all working towards achieving the same result.
But I'm learning as well, so as long as the players are learning, I'm doing that as well. So I'm learning about, okay, well, how do I get my message across? And if I demonstrate something to the boys, if I guess, demonstrate the progression of what we're trying to do, they just try and go to the progression. So I've got to peel it right back and make it very specific in what I'm trying to demonstrate. And yeah, they pick it up really well.
The team will be trimmed to 30 players for the 2020 ISC season. They will play 2 trials in February before the proper season.
Working really hard. The boys are probably doing between 5 and 6 Ks a day, but a lot of that's at high velocity. So there's with the GPS systems, there's like V4, V5, V6, and some of the boys are getting into the V6, which they probably wouldn't be doing if they were just doing long running.
Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
Yesterday was the last day that decided who the champions of the 9th competition would be in Lae. The competition, sponsored by Lae Biscuit Company. Teams came from as far as the Highlands region and the Makam district of Morobe province.
The Snacks 9th tournament held in Lae saw teams played 2 games each day for 3 days, then decides who the top 4 teams will be for the 4th day. Snacks 9's organizing director Stanley Tappent said this tournament has been going on for the past 6 years, not just in Morobe province, but other centers as well.
It's the primary tournament, maybe a selection tournament, maybe a no another selection, maybe a usual picking Lae Snacks Tigers.
The tournament purposely serves the idea of recruiting new players into the Lae Snacks Tigers for the next year's Intercity Cup. The tournament has seen 28 teams taking part. There were 4 pools, which the 28 teams were divided into 7 teams per pool. All teams showed great agility and teamwork on the field. All games had 9 minutes, halves of every game, and 1 minute water breaks. Mr. Tappent also said this tournament has helped young men to keep a clear mindset leading into the festive seasons. It also helps to build good characters of the players, both on and off the field. Philia Pisap, National EMTV Sports, Lae.
And that ends True Kai Sports for this evening. We go for a final break. When we come back, we take a look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always.
A look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours in the southern region. Fine becoming cloudy for Port Moresby and Popondetta, with a top temperature of 32 degrees as well, and fine weather in the rest of the region in Daru, Kerma and Alotau. To the Momasa region, fine becoming cloudy for Lae and Wau, the same as well in Vanimo. Cloudy weather and some showers over the next 24 hours in Madang and Wewak. To the New Guinea Islands region, fine becoming cloudy later on for Lorangau. A shower or 2 expected in Kavieng, partly cloudy, and a top of 32 for Kokopo, Rabaul and Kimbe. Thundery showers expected in Buka and a top of 32 degrees. And in the Highlands region, rain and then some fog in the morning in Mount Hagen. Morning fog, then fine weather in Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always.
And before we go, a recap of our top stories this evening. Chief Migration Officer Solomon Kanta and staff locked out of office. ICAC bill and whistleblower legislation to be introduced in Parliament early next year. And the Barramundis and SP Hunters take part in beach cricket. And that's how we begin another working week today, Monday the 9th of December 2019. On behalf of the National EMTV News team, pleasant viewing. Good night.